So thank you very much for joining us for the Art in Nature School Ambassador Masterclass. It is a pleasure to have you along. We had one session last week, which was Actions for Nature. That was Harry's masterclass, and it was a new one that we've never run before. So if you weren't able to join us live, we would love for you to catch up on that recording when you get a chance, and let us know how you found it. Harry has offered, because that was a session where we were encouraging you guys to take some kind of action for nature, run a little bit of a campaign to support some kind of wildlife or nature in your school grounds or in your school communities. And Harry has kindly offered to do a little follow-up session with anybody who would like to share what they've done, and ask, Harry questions, guidance about where they might take it next. So if you did watch the recording, or if you're planning to watch the recording, please feel free to drop us an email, let us know how you got on with that one. And if you want to do any follow-up sessions with Harry, we will see if we can squeeze them in. Excuse me. So this is the Art in Nature Masterclass. Hopefully you will have some materials to hand that you can use to deliver, that you can use as part of the session, sorry. Joining me today, we've got James, who is the specialist. He is our senior ambassador who will be delivering the main part. I'm just kind of the filler bit, not the expert by any means. And he will be giving us a little bit more of an introduction to himself and then the session itself. So like I say, if you can grab some scissors, some glue and some materials and have them to hand along with your booklet, you will use them in this session. Thank you, as always. You guys are absolutely massively impressive to us as Forces for Nature. Your passion, your commitment. I know that we have outstanding beacon schools on here today who were awarded outstanding beacon status at last week's festival, so congratulations. We had amazing contributions, we had videos and things like that to our festival, so we hope that you really enjoyed watching that. So as I've already mentioned, James Owen Thomas is our senior ambassador leading today's session. Some of you will have met James before, others of you will not have. I know some of you are returning ambassadors and others are new to this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to James just so he can give you a little bit of information about who he is and how he has got into doing the artwork that he has today and how that links to nature.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Katie. People also know me by my initials, JOTS. I'm an environmental artist and Tree Council ambassador for the last 3 years. As you'll see from the first slide here on this recording, I've had many exciting opportunities within my role as an ambassador for the Tree Council. I managed to have the exciting opportunity of being invited to number 10 Downing Street to meet the Prime Minister during the time of COP26, which was the United Nations Climate Conference. I've also been able to speak to many different schools like yourselves about my form of environmental art and discuss the importance of looking after nature, the environment, and the concerns of the climate change crisis. You'll also notice from the slide that a couple of years ago I was interviewed by Gardener's World about my artwork, which was extremely important to me. I had the opportunity to meet a chap called JJ Chalmers, and that has now led on to other important events in my life now as well, such as having a book written about me, which I'm really pleased to share early next year when that's complete. And I've also had the opportunity to own and have my own art gallery as well in my hometown of Pateley Bridge.
Fantastic. So James is an amazing example of what can happen when you follow your passion. Amazing opportunities that James has earned. They've not just kind of fallen into his lap, but it's because of his passion and his amazing artwork that he's had these opportunities and really made the most of them. Excuse me. So hopefully giving you guys some ideas of, if you happen to love art, if you find this masterclass exciting, if this is kind of the career path that you might want to go down, the opportunities, the doors that might open to you could be very unexpected, but certainly very exciting. And some of those things there, James being on BBC, going to Downing Street, meeting the Prime Minister, all of these things because of his amazingly successful artwork as a result of his talents. And you can see an example of one of his pieces of artwork there. But in a moment, I'm just going to have a little task before that. In a moment, James is going to explain a little bit more about his artwork, how he creates it, and give you a little bit of tuition to help you create your own masterpieces. And I can see there's St Andrews here. Some of you may well have seen some of James's artwork or even met James in Liverpool at the Open Eye Gallery as you guys supported the exhibition there. James has supported a number of our exhibitions, and one of his pieces of artwork tours around the UK with our exhibition on show. So that's fantastic. Now, the first thing that I want you to do, I just want to make sure your brains are awake today. And I want you to have a little bit of a think about art itself. Now, different artists use different art forms to communicate a message, to show their passion, to grab viewers and audience's attention. So there's different ways that you can create art. Sometimes it can be with a paintbrush, sometimes it can be with something else. So what I'd like you to do first, I don't want you to put anything in the chat just yet. I want you to talk to your fellow ambassadors, and I want you to think about what different ways can you make art? What different art forms are there? And there are some pictures on the screen in the background that might give you a hint at some different types of art forms. There might be some on display there. You might be able to think, what different ways can people create art? So there's things like painting with a paintbrush, but what other ways can artists create art? So I'm just going to give you a minute, have a think, and then I'll give you 30 seconds more. You can talk to each other about it. And then either you can unmute your microphones and tell me some different art forms, some different ways that people can create art, or you can tell your teacher and it can be typed in the chat. I'm gonna give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What do we think? Different art forms. How can we create art? You can type it in the chat. You can unmute the microphone. Oh, St Andrews?
You can use a mosaic.
You can use a mosaic. Absolutely can. What kind of things would you use to make that?
Gems, stones. Maybe you could even use like rubbish, like leftover.
Oh,
we did that last year.
Amazing. So you could do kind of tiles like a mosaic. You can do collage where you use lots of different pieces of materials. Well done. We've got one in the chat as well. Oh, so digital art, that's a really interesting one, and that's one that's getting more and more popular with videos and computer generated images, things like that. Sculpture, drawing, collage, fantastic. So we've got lots of different more kind of sculpture, painting, drawings is what we saw more historically. We've seen a lot more collage, digital, and other forms. Just to keep those brains ticking, what type of art do you think could be most environmentally friendly and why? Sometimes when we're doing art, we're focusing on what it looks like and the beauty of it, or how realistic it is, or if it captures the emotions we want. But more and more now, people are thinking about how their art can be environmentally friendly. What do you think? We've talked about digital, sculpture, painting, collage. What do you think could be the most type of environmentally friendly art and why? Have a discussion amongst yourselves and then pop something into the chat or let us know. How can you make your art environmentally friendly? Oh, something in the chat. Absolutely. So collage can use scrap materials. Digital doesn't have to use physical resources. So you don't have to create things that are made for every piece of art. You obviously need some kind of machine to do the digital thing, computer, phone, laptop. But once you've got that, you can use it to make lots of different art pieces without using lots of different resources. Collage absolutely can use scrap materials. So that leads on perfectly for this session. And James is going to explain a little bit how his art is environmentally friendly. Using natural materials as well has been mentioned, absolutely, and we will touch on that as well. So today you're going to be developing those collage skills to share a message about nature. You can create artwork that's beautiful and that's lovely to look at and that brightens a room and that's all wonderful, but your artwork can contain messages as well. You can be communicating what's important to you and you can be communicating why it's important to you in your artwork as well as making it a beautiful and eye-catching piece. So you're going to produce a piece of environmental art today. You might get it finished today, you might not, that's absolutely fine, but you can get it finished at some point. Now, James is going to explain to us, for those of you who haven't met James and haven't seen his artwork before, he's going to explain to you what his artwork is, how he creates it, and then we're going to go through step by step how he creates each piece. But first, just a little bit of an overview about how James got into producing the environmental art that he does and what he uses to make that art.
Thank you, Katie. It was interesting how one of your pupils from your school mentioned about mosaic style artwork and using tiles as a means from recycled or rubbish materials to create artwork, because that is very similar to the style that I use within all of my original artworks. You'll notice on the left-hand side, to introduce you to the first piece with the fox running through the woodland, all of that was created using a material called discarded National Lottery scratch cards. You may have been in a newsagent's or a supermarket recently, and you might have gone to the customer services desk, for example, and seen the tills with all of the lottery tickets hanging inside them. And you'll notice from the outside of that all of the bright, vivid colours that the scratch cards have on them. Of course, you will have never have bought one or probably had one, but maybe one of your parents might have had one or obviously purchased one before, and you might recognize them from these kinds of symbols and colors and patterns on them. These are just a couple of examples of the kind of materials that I get given in the thousands, because the shops themselves actually save them up for me, knowing that they would go into landfill and waste, which would obviously really harm our planet because they are effectively single-use items. But they know all about me and my work, and they save them up for me in huge quantities so that I can use them to create my artwork. I then break them down into very small pieces, such as here you'll notice from this little dish just how small some of the pieces can go. And that's what really creates the level of detail within my work, from the very thin mosaic tile or strip pieces that I use to make up the many layers within the pictures. You'll notice it's not until when you look at each of my artworks individually on a very close and upscale that you'll see just how many symbols and patterns there are within each tree. On the piece with the fox, you'll see just how many pound symbols there are and dollar signs to represent all of the different countries that the United Nations were involved with for COP26. On the second piece, you'll notice a woodland scene with a lot of branches coming down. That piece was made differently from the first because I tried to vary the techniques that I used. And you may find when you create your artworks for this Art in Nature workshop that there's never a right or wrong when you create a piece of artwork, because there are many different techniques that you can use to make each picture. So, for example, in the second one, I've used magazine papers, hole punched with large circles, which I have a special machine for to create those pieces. And they've just been laid out in a way where it becomes a repeat pattern over and over again. I find that in itself can create a really detailed effect. But there are other ways of creating artwork other than how I've managed to in that piece. Sometimes you can have just a simple hole punch that you would find in a school. A standard office hole punch can punch out really small dots, such as the ones that you can see really close up on the picture in the background. So there are many things that you can use that you'll find in your everyday lives to create a piece of artwork with. On the third piece, it was perhaps an even simpler technique to use, but obviously very time consuming in that I've cut many hundreds of strips of different papers, such as the scratch cards, magazines, newspapers, etc., to uh, layer up over and over again to create a three-dimensional layer to the artwork, because that's what I find most important with all of my artworks, which you'll see in the final and fourth piece on this slideshow of the cherry tree and blossom, just how many layers I've used to create that three-dimensional effect with different fabrics. And even natural leaves as well, such as cherry blossom and another tree called bougainvillea, which you might not have heard of, but it's been used in that piece to try and create up the three-dimensional layer of a cherry tree and blossom. And to give one other last example as well, you'll notice behind me that I've brought my latest piece of artwork to show you all that I not only create trees as a main subject of my form of artwork, but I've also specialized in architecture as well. If any of you have ever been to Hull before on the East Coast in East Riding of Yorkshire, some of you may have driven past or noticed the Humber Bridge, which crosses Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. It's been a very important project to me because, again, the theme of trees always pops up in all of my artworks, one way or another.
Fabulous, and that shows the different types of art that James uses. It's all environmental art, all using single-use items and items that would be waste. But it used to create different effects, and you can see fabrics, threads, as well as scratch cards, as well as natural materials. I know Rosebrook mentioned you could use natural materials. So a fabulous collection of art, just a sample of some of the things James has created there. Just to mention, if you're using natural materials, it's great to collect what falls from the trees or falls onto the ground, leaves. I know James has used different leaves in some of his artwork, petals, things like that. Ideally, we wouldn't be taking too many off the trees, but if they're falling off, then they're great to gather and to use within your artwork. So James is now going to talk through, and you can be working alongside as he's talking through if you want, or you can wait till he's got through all of the instructions, but he's going to talk through the different steps that he uses to create a piece of art. Just before we do that, James, just to give us an idea, so obviously you cut tiny little pieces of materials for some of your art to get that detail. And just to mention to the schools, like, it's really effective the way James picks out key words that give a certain message. So sometimes he uses words, if you've seen his artwork up close, to do with nature, to do with beauty, things that we should be paying attention to. Here he's got pound signs, euros, dollar signs, things like that. How long would it take you to create a piece like this one that you did here for Cop, James, with the fox in?
They can really vary from each artwork, but for that piece specifically, it took well over 150 hours. So don't worry, I wouldn't ever ask you to spend that long on creating a photo collage for this activity. So don't worry, kids, you don't have to spend nearly as long as I've done to create my artwork. But for the purpose of a photo collage, such as this image that some of you may have seen before. This kind of image can be a lot quicker than the one that you've seen in the example of the slideshow, because it's a photograph to begin with, which speeds up the process dramatically. A lot of people don't know when they see this picture because it's not obvious on first sighting. But this image was taken by a friend of mine and contacts who had been on holiday in Spain in the Basque region. And she walked through a nearby woodland there and found this scene, which was taken on her camera. So every time I've duplicated this image, because I've been able to create many different variants and types of this photo into different collages. I've always tried to keep the theme of Spanish words. You might not be able to see very well from the screen here, but some of the words in there have Spanish sentences on, and certain individual keywords which have come from once tickets from their country. And I've used that as an important means of symbolism, just to have hidden discreetly in different parts of the image. This one hasn't been started yet, so this is literally just how the raw image starts to begin with. But
But
you'll
that's what
notice.
you've got in your booklet. So in your booklets, you've got one of James's images that he's taken. And so that's what you're going to be doing today. You're going to be creating a photo collage based on James's image using that page in your booklet. And James is just going to talk us through the steps and how he goes about doing that.
So for the purpose of this activity, the way that you would start this kind of activity, you would obviously select the photo that you're going to use. So for example, if it was a photograph printed onto A4 card, I might pick this one, for example, a local scene taken in woodland with a little duck or an animal or a bird in it.
So
As
if
you can
you guys
see,
are taking pictures in your school grounds, if you're taking pictures that you think are nice, that might have something in it, like a squirrel, James has used those as well, a bird, you could actually in the future have a go with some of your own images.
exactly. So what you would do is you would look at the materials that you have around you and you have accessible to you. So that might be a magazine paper, it might be a newspaper, it might even be a Christmas card as well that you were sent by someone and you think, oh, I don't need that anymore. It was written in, it would only have gone into waste. So you would start by looking at how thick that material was, and if it was of a very hard substance, you could try peeling it back, obviously, to make it a lot thinner and more pliable, which would then make it more pliable to work with. You would then look at a photo and think, is there any area in that image that you feel didn't quite go right when you took the image or when it was given to you? Is there a certain part that you would rather cover up or disguise? And if there is that in that image, then the best way to start, I would say, is by cutting down and breaking it into very small pieces, as I have done, through any technique that you choose, whether it's using a pair of safety scissors, whether it's by hole punching it, if you've got an office hole punch at hand, or even a shredding machine, if you're allowed to use one. That can be very interesting for breaking down. If you want a rough surface, you might want a rough piece of material to illustrate a three-dimensional layer, so that it's also got a nice texture to it as well. It's always a good um, tip to look for textured materials as well, so that it has a nice finish. After you've done that and you've picked the kind of material that you wish to use, I always recommend using a PVA craft glue called Brian Clegg. It's only accessible now through mail order if you want to take the interest in art that you have further. But for the purpose of this workshop, a glue stick, preferably Pritt stick if you've got access to that, should be sufficient. But when I create my artwork, I generally tend to use this because it's a lot harder setting and it will fasten the pieces down forever.
And you can see James is using it in that picture, like a paintbrush to paint that onto the surface.
That's right. So it's always a very good idea to be generous with the glue. Make sure that you always apply enough down, because a lot of people, when they start these kind of workshops, when I've led them before, have always come back and asked me, "Oh, why didn't it stick well enough?" And I will then say to them, "Did you use enough glue on it?" So it's always recommended to use plenty of glue, and remember to be generous with that, because otherwise it may not necessarily stick the entire uh, the material down, because no paints or inks are ever used in this kind of activity. So don't feel obliged ever to use brand new materials, because all you ever need is a PVA or a Pritt stick kind of glue to fix those materials down.
And that's good advice, because you don't want to create a masterpiece and then pick it up and everything slides off. So lots of glue.
And remember as well, if for this kind of activity too, glue can also be used as a substitute to varnish as well. If you did want the image that you're creating to use to last longer, then I would recommend buying as an additional, obviously this is an additional cost to yourselves if you wanted to obviously to seal the picture for longer. I would recommend using a substance called Mod Podge. It's a craft material which you can buy in most shops or again through mail order. And it just means that the image will potentially last a lot longer than what it would with glue. But glue can still be used as a good varnish, and it will still last you a long time.
That's just painting PVA glue over all of the artwork at the end.
Yes, it just conceals it and gives it a nice finish as well.
Fab. And you can see here we've got a picture of a couple of pupils at a secondary school doing one of James's workshops there, using the PVA glue. You could be using Pritt stick and just sticking those on bit by bit into the area of the collage that they've selected. I think both of those selected the tree to make that 3D, like James was talking about, that 3D effect. But you could pick any part of the picture that you wish.
Other times as well, you might need certain stronger types of glue, depending upon, as I say, what kind of waste material or fabric that you use to create art with. For example, this image here, which you haven't seen on the slide because it's one of my newest pieces, you'll notice that for the lake, I've used a very hard source of material of plastic. This is all single use, really cheap, nasty plastic, which would have been thrown out and probably ended up in the sea somewhere off the coast of Scotland, which was where it came from. So I was really pleased to receive it because it meant that I was able to use it again as another layer to my form of art. But again, if you had anything similar to that, I would recommend asking one of your parents first, because you might need a Bostik kind of super glue for that. And that can really sort of help in terms of the fastening of a piece of artwork, like the image that you're creating.
Fabulous. So once you've picked an area, you've used your glue, you've stuck some things on it, the last step is to continue, repeat. Is that right, James?
That is right. It's you have to remember that it is a time-consuming process. Again, if you wanted it to be like it is there on that example of the image of the Spanish woodland scene, a more abstract approach, then it will, of course, be a lot quicker. But if you wanted to really delve deep into the type of image that you're working into, you may want to use very small pieces, which would then make the overall outcome afterwards a lot more detailed and a lot better, in my opinion, because it will then look like a fully completed piece of artwork that people would then want to, in my case, would either want to buy or put on their wall.
Fabulous. That's useful information. So you guys, I can see you're already on with yours now, which is fantastic. So you've got your image in your booklet. You are selecting materials from what you've got in front of you, applying glue, and you're creating your photo collage. So you can keep working through that. But some good points there from James. And it might be that this is your first attempt at a photo, at creating environmental collages. And it might be something that you work on a few times, that you create one today. You might really enjoy it and want to have another go and follow kind of James's advice there, creating smaller pieces of materials to use to create more detail, using different types of glues. James mentioned there he had something, a plastic material in one of his. You might experiment with different materials that you prefer to use for it. You might try bits of packaging. You might try natural materials as well. And you might experiment a little bit more. So if you're enjoying this, if you're having fun, and if you create an eye-catching image, you might then have another go with one of your own images or with another image itself to kind of develop this a little bit more. Because I imagine, James, the first ever collage that you didn't look exactly like the ones you do now. I imagine it's something that you have improved as you've done more and more and learned new techniques.
That's right. I don't have it in front of me, but you may remember it, Katie. It was the one that I did titled Abbey Ruins. It was inspired by Fountains Abbey, and it was the very smallest, most basic one that I ever did when I first started during the days of my GCSEs when I first took art as a subject. That was the very first image that I created, and it was extremely basic at that time. And it has since developed on dramatically since then into really huge pieces as well. Because remember, scale is an important part of artwork as well. You don't have to necessarily work on an A4 image like the ones that you're obviously experimenting with today. Sometimes really huge pieces or canvases can be an excellent idea, such as one that I worked on that measured 1 by 1.5 meters, which is the same piece that is now being toured around the UK for the Tree Council, which is an absolutely huge piece. You'd have to ask Katie, I think, if you wanted to see some of the images of that artwork in situ at the different events, but you'll see from those images that just how huge the actual artwork it is
Yeah,
itself.
I think the schools that we've got on today will all have, maybe not everyone in the room, but some of the pupils in the schools on today will have seen that firsthand, either in Cardiff or in Liverpool. So, yeah, absolutely. There are some huge pieces that James has created, and that all, each of them will have their own challenges and the amount of time that they take. But this is a really good process for you, kind of developing a technique, learning what you enjoy working with, how it works best for you, what kind of materials you want to use, the sizes that you're cutting them up into, and seeing the results you get. And remember, those techniques that James used for picking out words. So in some of his Spanish images, based upon Spanish photos, he's using Spanish words in there. In some, like the one that tours in our exhibition, there's words in there that link to nature, that link to how nature makes us feel, that communicate a message. So you might find, if you've got magazines, I've seen some bits of magazine waving in front of the cameras. If you've got magazines and newspapers, you might pick out certain words to do with trees and nature and breathing and relaxing and calm and things that you associate with nature that you might get into your artwork as well. So you might, as well as creating a wonderful image, have words in there that link to the message that you're trying to communicate.
That's exactly it, Katie. It's all about the symbolism of the overall message that you're trying to send, because art can be a voice as well. I often found when I was very young that art became my voice as I got older as well, because I learned through a system called X. Oh yeah, I'm just seeing the image that you're
That's
holding up to the screen. That's an
fabulous.
excellent start.
That is. And it's not even, we're going straight into our own original piece of artwork. We're not on the photo collage, our own original piece using a mixture of materials. Did that look like some natural as well as some waste materials? Fantastic. Now we don't, like I said, we don't expect you to finish them. I know Rosebrook, you're gonna have to head off in a couple of minutes. So we don't expect you to finish your pieces today. We love that these glimpses we're getting though. It excites me to see the work that you guys are producing. We know how super talented you are. But we'd love to see images of what they look like when they are finished. There were some amazing pieces that were created last year. So we really hope that once you have time to get your pieces finished, that your teachers would be willing to share some photos with us of your artwork. And if you're happy to hold them with your little face as well, so we can see the artist who's created them, we would love to see that. So please do continue on with them. And we would love to see some of your finished pieces when we get them done. Look at that. Oh, look at that, holding them up. Fabulous. Fantastic. Great effort, guys. In Rosebrook, we can see Some of
Really
those hold
well
up.
done.
It's amazing how much you've got through so far. So your mission, just because I know that we do have Rosebrook need to shoot off. So you've been developing your collage skills to share a message, and we can't wait to see what those finished pieces look like. So we'd love you to complete that collage and share it with us. In the future, please keep doing this. Like, don't let this be just a one-time go at doing collage art, environmental art. If you've created, I know some of you have got some amazing images that you've taken in your school grounds of your nature that is, and the wildlife that's visiting, have a go at doing a collage with one of them. You guys might even create a logo for your Young Tree Champions or for your school area, and you could do a collage of it. You could have one that you do together as a group of ambassadors that you all contribute to. So we would love you to continue. We'd love this to be the start of your journey of creating artwork, environmental artwork with waste materials and natural materials. And we'd love to see the work that you do and how it develops. So please do continue to do that. And definitely please do share it with us. So the usual email address, schools@treecouncil.org.uk. I love seeing how much you've got done so far, but we would absolutely love you to continue sharing that with us. And like I mentioned, thank you, Rosebrook. I know you need to head. Just a reminder that next week is the final masterclass, and that one is Story in Nature. This is with Daisy, who is one of our newer ambassadors. Harry did Story in Nature previously. He's did Actions for Nature this time round. So Daisy, who is a very talented ambassador and actor, is doing our Story in Nature masterclass, which is next Wednesday. So if you can join us live, please do. Otherwise, of course, please do watch the recording. St Andrews, I can see you still working away. So we'll hang around for another few minutes and see how your guys are getting on. I love that one piece that we saw from you. Oh, we don't have little bits of paper and glue all over your floor for next class. I'm a very messy artist. I walk through an art room and I have charcoal on my face when I've not even touched it. So I am the messiest of artists. I end up when I've had a go at doing these collages before. I love doing it. I find it really relaxing. But I end up with glue all over me. I don't know how I manage it.
Yeah, we were just saying, Katie, it's going to be a nice idea if our ambassadors, they take some of the younger ones at lunchtime and then they can do these little projects with them.
Yeah. That's a great idea, and that links to that outstanding ambassador page on the back of the booklet. So in terms of becoming an outstanding ambassador for any of you, I know you've got a few who are returning ambassadors, for them to lead sessions for other pupils, that ticks that box. So that would be fantastic. Hey guys, I see you waving in the background. Hey everyone. So that we talk about artwork, communicating messages, but the idea of you guys kind of spreading that yourselves to other pupils in the school who haven't had the chance to do the masterclass, that is fabulous. That's what we want. We want to share these messages, share these ideas of how you can show your love for nature and trees by creating these lovely pieces of art. And one of the other suggestions in terms of becoming an outstanding ambassador, for those who are returning ambassadors, is to create a display within school. So if you run a session, if you have some pupils creating some artwork, if you do some of your own collages, you might find that there's a notice board somewhere in a classroom or a corridor that you're able to use to create a display that all of the pupils can see as they walk past. All the teachers, even any visitors to your school, will then be able to share and celebrate your artwork because it's on display. So that might be a possibility in your school. It might not. But if there is a space that you spot, you might be able to create a display. Let's see if we've got a piece to have a look at.
So Zoe's got her piece, but she's
I used my packed lunch.
You use your packed lunch. Oh my goodness, you've got, I absolutely love that. So
pepperoni and cheese bakes, and I use that as the sun.
Wow. So all these bits of packaging that would have gone normally straight in the bin after your packed lunch have now become part of your artwork.
Are they inspired by palm trees? It looks almost like it could be on a Caribbean island somewhere.
Yeah.
Well,
Is this because we're getting Close to the summer, dreaming of summer holidays. That looks
Definitely going to be a
cool.
lunchtime club, I think, then this.
Amazing. Well done. I love that. Just creating things with the materials you've literally got there and then in your lunchbox. Well done, Zoe. Right, now if you guys are working away, we will leave you to it. If anyone else wants to share their artwork as it is now, then please feel free before we go. Does anybody else want to share what they've got done? Yeah, amazing. Please do. This bit excites me. I love seeing them.
I've barely done anything
Okay,
so far.
so
Barely done anything yet. That's okay.
this is the start.
A tree.
Oh, do you know what? That looks really 3D as well.
I'm not done.
Yeah, so what have you made it out of?
A cup holder.
A cup holder. There we
One of the
go.
McDonald's ones.
A McDonald's cup holder.
Oh, wow. That definitely seems to work. That's perfect for the trunk of a tree.
Okay.
It looks very surreal. It reminds
does.
me. Do you remember that piece that I created, Katie, which was of an arm which was exhibited at a gallery in Sussex?
It does
It
remind me
was,
a bit of that, yeah. Fabulous.
Isabel, be more intricate, so she takes
Yes.
time.
Very neat, that one. Very small pieces of material. I think that's going to work out really effectively.
Yeah, so she's just starting to layer it up.
Yeah, a very good start.
Yeah.
Louise has got hers.
Oh, here we go. We're using the photo.
Yeah, we've
I
just-
haven't done much because I had to wait for it to be printed, but I'm gonna do like all the trees and like cardboard and just make it out of like paper and stuff.
Amazing. Well done. Fabulous start. So we've got, look at that, in one small group, you can see all the different techniques, all the different materials and the different pieces. I reckon each one's got its own personality there.
Yeah, got some very good ambassadors.
You certainly do have some superstars. Well, we will say thank you very much, St Andrews, and I do hope to see, I know some of them that are very detailed will take a little bit to finish off, but it would be great to see some of these getting finished and seeing a picture of you holding your piece of artwork. If we can see that, that would be amazing, and then we can share them with James so he can see what you've managed to get completed.
I know
Oh, you've got a poem?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we only, because we've been catching up on the masterclass.
Yeah.
This is from a previous masterclass, but she'd really like to read it to you. Is that okay to do?
I would
it now?
love to hear your poem. Yes, please.
It's amazing. I was actually going to send it to you, Katie. So
Yeah.
freedom, a small thing that makes a huge difference. When I feel trapped of the modern world, I ponder, I take a wander down the dark road. I feel free, my eyes open, my heart no longer broken. I found my second home. What is home? Home is a place you're set free, a place to adventure, a place to climb up, look at the view. The world's weight off my shoulders. Freedom, a small thing that makes a huge difference. Now I am free. Thank you, nature, for helping me see.
there you go.
I've just woken my dog up clapping, but I absolutely love that. I would love to have that sent to me because I'd love to share that with Tree Council people as well, because I know they would be delighted to read that on their afternoon at some point.
Yeah.
I think that would absolutely make their day. Fabulous. Well done.
Yeah, that was the Voices in Nature with Amy. So
I
we watched
was going to say, I think I need
Yeah.
to share that with Amy as well, so she can see what was created in that masterclass. Fabulous. I absolutely love it. Well done.
Okay,
Superstar.
thank you.
Fabulous. So enjoy. I can't even remember what day it is. Is it Wednesday today?
Wednesday.
Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, guys. And please do, if you've got a bit more time of your lunch or whatever time it is now, if you can get a bit more done, but if you can get them finished or at least to a point where you're happy with it, and send us a picture at that point, that would be wonderful, and we will take another look at the wonderful pieces of environmental art you're doing. And then, like you mentioned, if they do any sessions with any other pupils, if we could have some pictures, that would be amazing to see.
Okay, will do. Thanks, Katie.
Wonderful. Thank you, you superstars. Bye, St Andrews.
Bye.
And a big thank you to James for doing another wonderful session and inspiring me to certainly want to get on and do a bit more art as well. So thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, guys.